Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about some new releases-ish, new-ish releases that I want. And why I may buy them, or the various reasons why I won't buy them. That will just be because I don't have enough money. Alright, let's just get into it because we don't, it's pretty self-explanatory. Let me actually scoot this way because I feel like this side of my background is nicer than the other side. I haven't written any notes down and I barely prepared for this, so we'll see how this goes. But first I want to start off with some of the newer, like new as of right now, which is September 11th videos, or what? Makeup releases. And the ones that I'm most tempted by, specifically the ones that are spooky themed, always are my weakness, forever my weakness. Also, if my hair looks horrific from this side, I literally couldn't be bothered to do it. So, sorry about that. First of all, the Shroud and Batty Bean Halloween collab palette. Let me just think if I have all those words in the correct order. But that was newly released, and also I guess a restock of the It's Freaking Bats. I don't really know. I haven't been following it super closely because I was tempted to buy it. I just decided not to. And there's something that I like about it. Obviously I love Betty Jean. I think she's amazing, and I like the Halloween theme, and I like the color story, but for some reason there's something that's holding me back from like being 100% in love with it. I don't know whether, like, I feel like there's something about the color story that I think maybe I have just a hard time conceptualizing looks with the palette. And then I'm super curious to try Shroud's formula, but I feel like I hear so much hit and miss. Hit or miss, I guess is the phrase. Hit or miss reviews. Some people love the formula. I saw someone compare it to Melt's matte formula, which intrigues me, but also I've seen a lot of people who just absolutely do not get along with it, and I don't know. So I think probably that, along with the fact, or along with their complete fiasco of their first palette release, I don't know. I'm not 100% sold on it yet, but it's definitely something that was tempting me. The one that I desperately want to buy though is the Bella Beauty Bar. Let me look at what the actual name of the palette is. The Strange and Unusual palette looks so pretty. I love the packaging. I really actually do quite like the color story. The shimmers look beautiful. I've seen Bella Beauty Bar as a brand and their palettes come up more on my Instagram feed, and see people using them, and their shimmers look really nice, and literally anything that's remotely like associated with Halloween, it is going to make me want to buy it. Holy shit, I am tired and slightly hungover today, so my brain is working at probably 50% capacity here. But I'm really intrigued by this, and it's on like the top of my list to potentially buy. Also their like highlighter palette as well, which is called the Oracle Chrome highlighter palette, looks really pretty. It has like iridescent shifty highlighters, so maybe I'll buy those too. If you've ever tried Bella Beauty Bar, let me know what you think of them. Speaking of highlighter palettes, the Blend Bunny highlighter palette, what is it actually called? It is called the Noctilucent, I think, palette. I've heard so many people rave about this so far, even though it hasn't been up for that long. I've seen swatches of it. Looks beautiful. I can't remember who, but someone described it basically as like the Fenty Diamond Bomb in a whole bunch of different colors, which to me is like, sounds like the greatest thing I've literally ever heard. So that is super tempting to me. It's just so hard to narrow down what to actually spend money on. Unearthly Cosmetics also, let's see, they released a bigger palette that I kind of feel like I like. I don't know. I like the depth. I like how there's deep blues, deep purples, deep greens. It kind of gives rainbow vibes, but not 100%. The Vitality palette looks beautiful. Again, I know everyone loves Unearthly Cosmetics. Everyone says it's their favorite eyeshadow formula they've ever tried, and this is definitely their most tempting palette to me. Looks like they may have taken it off of their Instagram. It looked like they were sneak peeking some potential Halloween palettes, if I'm not wrong. But I can't see it on their Instagram feed, so let me know if you know anything about that. But I remember being very excited. Not sure if that's actually going to be a thing, but I believe that they were sneak peeking some potential Halloween releases. Anyway, so that very much intrigued me as well. Also, another palette that I contemplated buying again. Another palette that I've contemplated buying, the Tropicolor palette from Sydney Grace in collaboration with Tina from the Fancy Face. If you watch me, you know I love and adore Tina to absolute death. I just love her so much. Definitely go check her out. If you haven't, I will link her channel down below. But they released a collab palette, and I was really tempted to purchase it, but I don't know. There's something like I have the Temptalia palettes from Sydney Grace, and I really enjoy them. I love the way the mattes perform, and I like the shimmers. They're just nice metallics, nothing incredibly like extra special or sparkly, but I feel like I haven't formed my full concise thoughts on Sydney Grace's formula yet, and I feel like I like the colors in Tina's palette individually a lot, but as a color story, it doesn't call to me as much as other palettes. So again, as much as I, in an ideal world, would want to buy it, I'm not again 100% sold, but that was definitely a palette release that I was, again, tempted by. This is a little bit of an older one, but still one that I think is so beautiful. The About Face cream blushes that they released, I think the colors are just literally impeccable. The shades that they chose for their line are just absolutely divine. I want every single shade. I literally can't choose, and I think they look so pretty. And as soon as I saw them release these, I knew that I would put them on my wish list. I also, two older palettes, but palettes that are still on my wish list. Number one, weirdly enough, the Natasha Denona. What is it actually called? Natasha Denona. What is it? Like her ideal palette, her dream palette? Show it to me, Natasha. My dream eyeshadow palette. Is that what it's actually called? My dream palette? Anyway, I never would have guessed that this would like appeal to me so much, but there's something about the dark purples. There's like one grungy kind of multi-chrome in the corner, mixed with like the neutrals. I love it. It's probably the palette, aside from the gold palette and the Metropolis palette, the color story that's like most intrigued me, and the Love palette, but that's discontinued, from Natasha Denona. And while I do really like Natasha Denona's formula, it is one that I don't know if it's necessarily for me worth the money, but I do, if any Natasha Denona palette was going to speak to me, it it's this one. As well, another, can you guess what it is? The new Pat McGrath palette, Mothership palette, looks stunning. I think Midnight Sun is probably, in terms of like Pat McGrath Mothership palette wishlist order, Midnight Sun is probably above this one, which is called what is it called? Moonlit Seduction. I think Midnight Sun is over this new Midnight Seduction palette. However, it is gorgeous. I love the color story of this. The only thing that makes me slightly disappointed is that it appears as though these special shades, like the 4 special shades at the end, aren't necessarily her traditional special shades. Maybe aren't quite as special. Am I filming? Yes, as her other Mothership palette. So that's why it's not necessarily like number 1 in terms of what I want. But I just adore Pat McGrath's eyeshadow formula so incredibly much that I can't stop thinking about it, quite frankly. Oh, speaking of the Glamouratrix Nearly Natural. No, Nearly Neutral? No, Nearly Natural. I always forget the name of it. I want to call it Nearly Neutral, but it's actually Nearly Natural. I know I've spoken about that before, and that is still very high on my list of palettes that I want, makeup that I want. The new Glamorous palette that they showed, why does that feel weird? That they camera cut out, so if I'm in a different place, that's why I'm filming. Everything's good. But I was talking about the new Glamorous palette from Glamouratrix. It's releasing on the 24th of September, so this month, and I really like the color story. Again, I think it's interesting, the teals and the purples. I like the depth. It's very colorful, and I'm so intrigued to try the Glamouratrix formula. Their shimmers look absolutely unreal. The idea of buying this and the Nearly Natural palette together just makes me feel feelings on the inside of my soul. Look, I don't know. But needless to say, I do. It's so tempting. It's just expensive, but it's so tempting. From MBA Cosmetics, which is another brand that I feel like I've been hearing, more about here and there. They have their Pumpkin Kisses and Autumn Wishes palette, which is, I don't know, kind of cute. I like anything fall, pumpkin, Halloween, autumn, so it definitely appeals to me. I like the color story, but not something I would realistically buy, although, I'm so tempted by themes that even if I'm not super attracted to the color story, if you theme a release to be Halloween or fall related, I will want to buy it no matter what. Clarity Cosmetics, I forgot about this, released or sneak peeked or showed their Bloom palette. Oh, it's available. Look at how beautiful this palette is. I feel like I've heard a lot about Clarity Cosmetics. They feel so similar to Give Me Glow to me. It's like they feel like the exact same brand to me. I don't know, but I feel like they have such really beautiful color stories that always intrigue me, honestly. They did release a pre-order of their Halloween themed palette that's called the Apocalypse palette, which I also wanted to talk about, and I love the theme of it. There's just something about the color story that doesn't quite call to me. I feel like it looks very different in different lightings, and their first initial release video of the color story, it felt odd to me because the colors were so light and so bright, and it's like the Apocalypse palette. It's supposed to, like, in my mind, I associate it with, like, I associate deeper colors. I don't know. So that I was really, like, I was very excited about it when they first released it, but not so much after seeing the actual color story. This is more of a mainstream, non-indie release, but if you've watched me, you know that I love the Nars blush palettes that I have, and they're coming out with another, surprise, surprise, blush palette for holidays. It's called, what is it called? The Rising Start Cheek, must be Rising Star Cheek Palette. I love their baked formula. I think it's such a beautiful blush formula, and I really wanted the one from last year and I didn't get it, and I honestly regret it. Like, I really, really wish I had just bought it. So part of me wants to buy this just because I missed out and I feel so sad about it from last year, but probably again won't realistically end up buying it either. Oh, that was the other thing. And you know what, maybe the final thing I'll talk about in this video is the Collidos Night of Creation collection. They're 2 quads and then they're eyeliners that are like multi-chromes. I think it's so smart. I love that it's not a huge collection, but I love the aesthetic of it. Again, I love Collidos as a brand, and when they released their first 2 quads, I wasn't 100% sold, but the more that I see other people use them and the more I don't have them, and now that they've released these quads, their shimmers, they're in those 2 initial quads that they released, look stunningly gorgeous. And I feel like I'm more open now to the idea of quads than I was before, especially because I do like that they have more depth to their quads. So, you know, I theoretically could do an entire eye look just using it, and maybe I'll pick up like the 4 quads that I don't have that they released. I realistically don't think I would buy the eyeliners just because I don't think that's necessarily going to be a product that I use as much. Maybe 1. I do think they're cool. I just don't do much like liner, you know, type stuff. And I feel like they probably wouldn't shine as much in the waterline, but yeah, I'm very tempted to buy those. I feel like to buy the quads. And maybe if I was making an order, I'd buy a lip clay or some of the blushes. I still want like all the shades of the blushes. I can only imagine that Collidos has just stunning blushes, considering how much I love their eyeshadows. Alright, and that basically concludes this video. Sorry if I was all over the place. I feel like my mind wasn't really fully all here, but I think I touched on all the things that I mostly wanted to touch on. I think if I had to narrow it down to a realistic purchase, like 1 or 2 things that it's actually like feasible for me to buy, because obviously you can't buy everything. I feel like it would either be the Collidos quads. Please excuse my washing machine. The Collidos quads I think would be like a realistic purchase for me. The Blend Bunny Noctilucent, I think that's how you say it, palette. I think that buying that would also be a realistic purchase for me. And then I think, I really think that I might, when it releases, buy the Bella Beauty Bar palette, Strange and Unusual palette, along with the highlighter palette, because both of those things look just, you know, when you just know you love them, or at least I think I'm just 100% sold on the idea of them. I really feel like I haven't been able to get them out of my mind since I saw them release. And I've also been very much thinking about the Shroud Cosmetics and Batty Bean Hello Bean palette, but there's really something that's holding me back from that, and I don't know if it's the color story, I don't know if it's just being unsure about the formula or what. So if you have tried Shroud, I would honestly really, really love to know what you think of them, just because I feel like I've seen so many mixed reviews. Let me know if there are anything if there is anything that you have been wanting, if there's anything in this video that I mentioned that you've either purchased or that is also on your wish list. Again, please do let me know in the comments. It's like my favorite thing to hear people's feedback on like new releases or people's opinions on formulas. I just think it's so helpful for me just to know, you know, if you've